the Sovereign International Treasury Monetary 1, date July 16, 2021. Resolution N0005. We recognize our main responsibility to maintain the international peace and security, the implementation of international monetary reform in accordance with the purposes and principles of the International Treasury Monetary 1. We are guided by previous resolutions and statements made by the International Treasury Monetary 1. We are recognized as the owner and manager of the World Account in the World Bank, account N0010001-4AAA 777C3AM01, distributed among various banks in 172 countries around the world. We are recognized as the owner and manager of World Account in the World Bank, account N001-1-735-16-222-777-888-999, distributed among various banks in 172 countries around the world. We are additionally recognized as the owner and manager of the assets including accounts under the names White Spiritual Boy, Spiritual Wonder Boy, Spiritual Wonder Brothers, Morning Star, King David, Prophet Muhammad, Demas and Saint Timothy, White Mongolia, White Vatican, White Eagle, Maria Sinukuan or Divine Crystal, Maria Divine Banahaw or Sunflower, Maria Cristina or Divine Magdalene, Maria Makiling or Divine Ester Egg, Falcon, Alpha Omega, and other accounts in different banks in 189 countries around the world. We validate the Resolution N01 dated April 7, 2020, Anti-Crisis Financial Measures, the Resolution N02 dated June 2, 2020, the One Way Out of the Global Financial Crisis, the Resolution N04 dated February 23, 2021, Cancellation of historical assets in order to form a new well-balanced financial system. We validate that the monetary reform is based on the principles contained in the Resolution 001, 2020, on overcoming the global financial crisis, on the approval of a new world reserve currencies in the global financial system, and the introduction of new world reserve currencies into global financial turnover, legally approved in a specific fixed filling in the form of XAU, Golden Bank, Golden Soviet Ruble, Golden US Dollar, Golden EQ, our International Treasury Monetary 1 has started issuing M1 Treasury bills nominated in three global reserve currencies, hereinafter M1 T-bills. M1 T-B should be designed for placement in the treasuries of the countries, their national, reserve, central state banks, in order to increase and ensure the country gold balance, and to ensure the issue of national currencies of the countries, which will obviously lead to an understandable in-issue value of the national currencies in the war for exchange and trading, to restore paralyzed international trade and other contracts. We address to the governments and related financial authorities in order to remind them to follow the recommendations to choose one of these world reserve currencies to be approved and adopted at the level of the parliaments and at the level of state central banks. We attest that in the view of positive aspects of special drawing rights, SDR, the M1 T-bills will be used as essential international elements for setting official foreign exchange reserve system, regulation for balances of payments, and measuring the value of new national currencies. We remind all countries to put into effect the final recommendations of Basel III, on the basis of which to adopt a single world payment standard of the world currency XAU, Bank Gold, in connection with the collapse of old reserve currency, the US dollar, and we recommend that the gold standard be immediately introduced into the world financial system. We encourage the measures taken in order to implement the Resolution 004, 2021, and we encourage to carry them on, and we take into account the deployment, in this regard, of the operations around the world to block the usage of historical assets, to arrest and bring to justice those involved in their illegal use. We welcome the countries seeking to establish cooperation within the framework of the Resolution 002, 2020, in particular paragraphs 12, 13, 14, 15. We confirm our readiness to cooperate in accordance with the Resolution 002, 2020. Paragraph 12. Concerning debts to the International Monetary Fund. We confirm readiness to cooperate in accordance with the Resolution 002, 2020, paragraph 13, concerning inter-country external government debt, which formed between the countries since the introduction of Jamaica Accords. We recommend to the Ministers of Finance to carry out debt audits and classify the debts, to identify medium and long-term debts, to submit these reports of the exclusively medium and long-term external debts to the International Treasury Monetary One. The International Treasury Monetary One will provide necessary assets for the complete closure of medium and long-term external debts between the countries. Exceptions are government debts formed for the implementation of investment projects and state programs according to the priority directions of the country's economic development. We confirm our readiness in accordance with the recommendations of the Resolution 002-2020, paragraph 14. We recommend that all countries review government programs and invest projects in accordance with the priority directions for the development of the country's economy. It's necessary to define programs and projects that meet the development conditions and environmental ecological safety, solving the problem of food production, solving the problem of employment of the population, solving the problems of infrastructure development, housing for all citizens, transition to a sustainable use of natural resources. We recommend that all countries review energy security concepts with a transition to alternative clean energy sources, taking into account the availability of innovative technologies of free energy which will be actively implemented by us. We confirm our readiness for cooperation in accordance with the recommendations of the Resolution 002-2020, paragraph 15. We recommend to provide the International Treasury Monetary One with the prepared government programs and investment projects in accordance with priority directions for the development of country's economy. The International Treasury Monetary One will provide necessary assets for financing the government programs and investment projects. Special working group from each country will determine term and program funding schedule. The task of the special working group there will be to define the government programs that have to be provided with non-returnable financing. We protest against the continued increase of the illegal use of fiat money as the basis of accounts managed by the International Treasury Monetary One. We condemn all the ongoing emissions of new fiat money, the illegal use of historical assets, Resolution 004-2021, which increasingly undermines the process of stabilizing the transition to new financial system and endangers the lives of hundreds of thousands of people on the earth. We protest against the emerging of any new cryptocurrencies that do not have golden collateral, the mining of which increasingly undermines the process of stabilizing the transition to a new financial system, strengthens the process of money laundering, the financing of criminal activities, extremism and terrorism. We stand firm in our commitment to self-sovereignty, independence, unity and territorial integrity of states, as well as world peace against violence, and vote for principles of non-intervention, good neighborliness and regional cooperation be respected. We recognize that profound development of the world culture is inextricably linked with the implementation of the rights of the people, those under colonial or other forms of foreign domination, or foreign occupation included, on self-determination that are proclaimed in the international covenants on human rights. We reaffirm the determination of the International Treasury Monetary One to save future generations from scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, to promote social progress and better living conditions in greater freedom, as well as to show tolerance and to live together in peace with each other as good neighbors. We admit that the peace and security, development and human rights are the pillars on which sustainable creative development is formed, and the foundations of collective security and well-being, and recognize that development, peace, security, and human rights are interconnected and strengthen each other. We recognize that the peace is not simply the absence of conflict, but a positive, dynamic, and participatory process in which dialogue is encouraged. Conflicts are resolved in a spirit of mutual understanding and cooperation, and socio-economic development is ensured. We recognize that the inherent dignity and equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family are the foundation for freedom, justice, and peace in the world, and recognize that the peace is strengthened through the full exercise of all inalienable rights derived from the inherent dignity of all human beings. We confirm that everyone has the right to enjoy such a social structure and international relations where human rights and freedoms might prosper. We remain determined to end poverty and hunger in the world, to combat inequalities within and among the countries, to build peaceful, just and free from social barriers society, to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights, to achieve gender equality, and the empowerment of women and girls, to ensure reliable preservation of our planet and its natural resources. We also remain determined to create conditions for sustainable, inclusive, and sustained economic growth, shared prosperity, and decent work for everyone, taking into account different levels of national development and opportunities. We reaffirm our commitments to create a world in which humanity lives in harmony with nature, to preserve and sustainably use the resources of the seas and land of our planet, including through rational consumption and production, to reverse the trends of environmental degradation, to increase the resilience, to reduce the risk of disasters, as well as to stop the degradation of ecosystems and the loss of biodiversity. At the same time, we, International Treasury Monetary One, draw attention to the fact that progress is slow in many areas. Exposure to vulnerability factors is high, exposure to deprivation is more entrenched, hunger is growing, progress towards gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls is too slow. The manifestations of inequality within and between the countries in terms of wealth, income, and opportunities are increasing. The loss of biodiversity, environmental degradation, the dumping of plastic garbage into the oceans, climate change and the increased disaster risk continue at a rate that has potentially catastrophic consequences for humanity. We are concerned that the violent genocide, extremism, terrorism, organized crime, corruption, illicit financial flows, global health threats, humanitarian crises, and forced displacement of people threaten to undo a big part of progress achieved during the recent decades as the development of the world. We are concerned that conflicts and instability have persisted or intensified in many parts of the world. Natural disasters have become more frequent and intense, causing the unspeakable human suffering and undermine the achievement of the goals of sustainable development, the ability of countries to prevent and resolve conflicts, and to build stable, peaceful, fair, and inclusive societies has often been shown abruptly and insufficiently due to the instability of the global financial system. We remind of the importance of prevention of armed conflict and the commitment to promote the culture of the prevention of armed conflicts as means of effectively addressing the interrelated complex security and development challenges facing people around the world. We admit that further culture of peace and the education of people based on the principles of justice, freedom, and peace are necessary for maintenance of human dignity and constitute duties that all people must fulfill in a spirit of mutual assistance and sympathy. We are sure that a culture of peace is a combination of values, worldviews, traditions, behaviors, and lifestyles, and that all this should be enabled by a supportive national and international environment that promotes peace. We warn that racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance, when they amount to racism and racial discrimination, are an obstacle to friendly and peaceful relations between people and nations, and are among the root reasons of many internal and international conflicts, including armed conflicts. We also confirm the principles recognized by the International Treasury Monetary One and recall the universal nature, and that the stated goals and objectives are complex and indivisible, ensuring a balance of economic, social, and environmental components of sustainable development of all countries of the world. The International Treasury Monetary One, as the main owner and manager of the entire world gold reserve, both bank balance gold and off-balance gold on the planet Earth, introduces the following solutions. Implementing the initiatives. The International Treasury Monetary One calls for long-term partnership between government structures at all the levels and with participation of all relevant stakeholders, including civil society, the private sector, the scientific community, and youth. It recalls the guidelines for the work of the International Treasury Monetary One, based on the adopted resolutions, and urges the countries to make the appropriate use of the procedures and criteria contained therein, including listing and delisting, and recalls the Resolution 002/2020 in this regard. It is to welcome the voluntary actions announced by the leaders of the Sustainable Development Goals at many high-level events over the past months. It is ready to provide the necessary cooperation within the framework of the Resolution 002/2020 in these particular items 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. It is recommended that the countries that are in cooperation take into account two types of the M1 T-bills: security emissions issued in XAU and payment denominated in foreign currency in accordance with the Resolution 001 and Resolution 002. The countries that have difficulties in raising loan funds and have limited quotas for issuing sovereign guarantees should provide the necessary number of the M1 T-bills in the required total quantities in accordance with the declared programs for implementing the programs of sustainable development. It is to mobilize an adequate and well-targeted financing using the assets of capabilities of the International Treasury Monetary One in order to reduce the funding gap for the sustainable development goals for the governments, the private sector, and other stakeholders. We call for the need to engage more vigorously in the mobilization of domestic, public, and private resources to create a more favorable environment for sustainable investment and to fulfill the commitments of international cooperation for development. The International Treasury Monetary One is ready to provide funding so that our strategies and actions reach the most lagging and target financial services and support the competitiveness of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, including those owned by women and youth. The International Treasury Monetary One will also seek more vigorously to find non-financial means of implementation, including promoting a universal, based on the rules of open, transparent, non-discriminatory, and fair multilateral trading system, recognizing that the international trade is an engine for development. It is to mobilize an adequate and well-targeted financing using the assets and capabilities of the International Treasury Monetary One for programs aimed at strengthening the culture of peace and raising awareness of human rights through training, education, and popularization. It is to mobilize an adequate and well-targeted financing using the assets and capabilities of the International Treasury Monetary One for the development, promotion, and implementation at the national, regional, and international levels of strategies, programs, and policies, as well as relevant legislative provisions, which may include special and positive measures in order to promote an equality-based social development as the realization of civil and political, economic, social and cultural rights of all victims of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance. It is to mobilize in funding to support local action to accelerate programs realization. We are committed to empower cities, local authorities, and communities and provide them with necessary financial support for sustainable development. The International Treasury Monetary One recognizes their critical role in achieving and implementing goals in the field of sustainable development. It is to mobilize an adequate and well-targeted financing using the assets and capabilities of International Treasury Monetary One in order to reduce disaster risk and increase resilience. The International Treasury Monetary One is ready to establish policies, investments, and innovations designed to reduce the risk of disasters and increase the resilience of countries, economics, communities, and individuals to economic, social, and environmental shocks and disasters. It is to mobilize an adequate and well-targeted financing using the assets and capabilities of the International Treasury Monetary One in order to solve issues through international cooperation and strengthening global partnership. The International Treasury Monetary One recognizes the integrated nature of the creative sustainable development goals, requires a global approach. The International Treasury Monetary One reaffirms that it is globally committed to multilateralism in order to find new ways to work together and ensures that multilateral institutions are able to keep up with the rapidly occurring changes. The International Treasury Monetary One is ready to find peaceful and fair solutions to disputes, as well as to respect international law, including the right of people to self-determination and the need to respect the territorial integrity and political independence of the countries. It is to mobilize an adequate and thoroughly directed funding using the assets and capabilities of the International Treasury Monetary One in order to engage science, technology, and innovation, paying more attention to digital transformation in the interest of sustainable development. The International Treasury Monetary One is ready to encourage research, capacity-building initiatives, innovations, and technologies that help achieve goals of sustainable creative development, and promotes the use of scientific data from all fields in order to make it possible to switch to sustainable development. The International Treasury Monetary One is ready to finance and support quality education and lifelong learning, so that children, youth, and adults acquire the appropriate knowledge and skills to form more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable societies that can adapt to rapid technological changes. The International Treasury Monetary One is ready to establish the international cooperation that helps the developing countries overcome the factors that hinder their access to technology and education. The International Treasury Monetary One solemnly invites all interested parties to be guided in their activities by the recognition of the special importance of tolerance, dialogue, cooperation and solidarity among all peoples and nations of the world as means for the promotion of peace. To this end, present generations must ensure that both they and future generations learn to live together in peace in a noble effort to save future generations from the scourge of war. The International Treasury Monetary One invites governments, institutions, and international organizations, as well as intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations, to disseminate the resolutions of the International Treasury Monetary One and promote universal compliance and understanding. The International Treasury Monetary One is ready to accelerate common efforts now and in the coming decade to accelerate the realization of a sustainable development world. Based on the financial potential, the International Treasury Monetary One invites countries to assimilate together the transformative beginning and accelerate implementation. Therefore, rapid changes will be possible, and the goals will remain within reach. The International Treasury Monetary One declares that nothing in this resolution can be considered as contradicting the goals and principles of sustainable development in the world. The provisions included in this resolution should be understood in the light of the earlier resolutions of the International Treasury Monetary One, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and relevant international and regional instruments ratified by the countries. The International Treasury Monetary One declares its intention to continue to study the situation and, as appropriate, to consider extending the term of powers granted by this resolution for additional periods. The specialized units, the Special Department for Overcoming the Global Financial Crisis, Anti-Crisis Center, and the Department of Special Projects and Programs of the International Treasury Monetary One are commanded to deal with these issues. The control and audit of the implementation of this resolution in 005 is entrusted to the Executive Committee of the International Treasury Monetary One. Approved, completed, and executed from 16/7/2021. His Highness Alexander Nikolaevich Paramonov, the Chief Treasurer of the International Treasury Monetary One, the President and Chief Operating Officer of the White Spiritual Boy, RSB Global Corp Incorporated, UN and 032-1730. Om.